Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders are heading into their first preseason clash against the New England Patriots. And although excitement is in the air with football finally back, a few key absences have slightly dampened the anticipation. Head coach Dan Quinn has already made it clear that several notable players won't be making the trip to Foxborough. Now, before fans start panicking and hitting the alarm button, Quinn emphasized that the injuries these players are dealing with are minor and not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. That said, there's no denying it's a little disappointing to see some of these younger and second-year guys miss out on valuable joint practice and preseason reps. This early part of August is the ideal time for these developmental players to get meaningful snaps in real game situations. Missing even 1 week, especially during such a pivotal growth period, can feel like a missed opportunity, both for the players themselves and the coaching staff trying to evaluate them. Let's start with one of the names that's been on everyone's radar, Brandon Coleman. This is a player who's not only expected to contribute significantly on the offensive line, but has recently been making a transition to playing more at guard. Unfortunately, Coleman tweaked his leg during Saturday's practice and hasn't returned to the field since. He also missed Monday's session, and the question lingered about whether he'd make the trip north to face the Patriots. As of now, we know he's staying back in Ashburn and will miss both the joint practices and the preseason opener. What's especially frustrating here is that Coleman was starting to gel with the rest of the offensive line. And as anyone who's followed football for more than 5 minutes knows, continuity and chemistry on the offensive line are absolutely crucial. These guys need time together, both in practice and in-game reps, to develop trust and cohesion. Things that can't be faked or rushed. Now, while some fans might feel tempted to panic or overreact, Quinn has been firm in his messaging. These are precautionary moves. He hasn't expressed any significant concern over Coleman's injury, labeling it as minor and something they are monitoring closely. There's hope, possibly even an expectation that Coleman could be back as early as next week. This is important because the coaching staff has big plans for Coleman this season, particularly in the interior line positions where he's projected to be a foundational piece. His ability to anchor the line, communicate protections, and hold his own in pass pro will be key to any offensive success Washington hopes to have. Missing time now is inconvenient, but not catastrophic. And if there's a silver lining here, it's that the starters are only expected to get limited reps during the preseason anyway, so long as Coleman returns to full health in the next week or so. His development timeline shouldn't be significantly impacted. But it's not just Coleman who's sidelined. 2 second-year players that had a real shot at making a splash during these practices are also staying back in Virginia. Jordan Maggio and Javonte Jean-Baptiste were both beginning to turn heads at training camp, flashing the kind of potential that coaches love to see heading into year 2. Quinn has spoken repeatedly about how crucial the second year is in a player's development, and that's especially true for guys like Maggio and Jean-Baptiste, who are expected to push for meaningful roles in the rotation this season. For them to miss this week, especially with the Patriots on the schedule, a team known for disciplined, high-tempo practices, is a setback. These reps could have been vital for building confidence, understanding game speed, and showing coaches they're ready for bigger things in 2025. Now, they'll have to wait and hope to bounce back quickly. It's also worth noting that Maggio missed time last season with injuries, so fans naturally worry about whether this is a lingering issue or something new. Coach Quinn hasn't disclosed the specific nature of either Maggio or Jean-Baptiste's injuries, only reiterating that they are minor and short-term. Still, anytime you hear injury and repetition in the same sentence, especially for young players trying to carve out a role, it's fair to have concerns. These guys aren't just camp bodies. They're real prospects with upside, and these are valuable reps they're now missing. It's also frustrating for fans who had these two circled as breakout candidates. You want to see young talent take that leap, and preseason is often where it happens. But for now, we'll have to wait until next week's injury update to get a better idea of when they'll be back in action. Turning our attention to the veterans, it appears that both Marcus Mariota and wide receiver Noah Brown will also be watching from afar this week. Neither player traveled with the team, as the Commanders are taking a cautious approach to managing their workloads. This makes sense, especially considering both have minor injuries and are already well acquainted with the playbook and scheme. There's nothing to gain by forcing them into action at this point in camp. Mariota's absence, in particular, opens the door for an intriguing quarterback battle between Josh Johnson and Sam Hartman. Both guys have had up and down moments in practice, and this week offers a prime opportunity to show who can lead the offense efficiently and command a huddle when it matters most. Similarly, Brown's absence gives depth wideouts like Chris Moore, KJ Osborne, and Ja'Cory Brooks a golden chance to make their case for a final roster spot. As always, one of the biggest questions swirling around social media this week has been the status of Terry McLaurin. Fans want to know, did he travel with the team? The answer is no, but not because of any sudden setback. McLaurin remains on the physically unable to perform PUP list, and players in that category typically don't travel for joint practices or preseason games. The same goes for Sam Cosmi, another PUP list member who stayed behind in Ashburn. While it might be frustrating for fans not to see their stars in action, this is all part of a long-term strategy. These players are too valuable to the team's future to be rushed back unnecessarily. The focus is on being ready for week 1 of the regular season, not winning a joint practice in early August. In the meantime, younger players will have the chance to shine, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Coach Quinn has remained calm and composed throughout this process. His messaging has been consistent. These injuries are minor. The players are being held out as a precaution, and there's optimism that many of them could return to practice next week. That's important because stability starts at the top. If the head coach is panicking, the rest of the team tends to follow suit. But Quinn's demeanor has been confident, calculated, and supportive of his players. He's focused on the long game, getting everyone healthy and ready for September, not just August. It's a smart approach, especially for a team looking to rebuild and establish a new identity. These decisions aren't made in a vacuum. They're about preserving long-term potential while still evaluating the roster. And while it may sting to miss out on reps now, it's a small price to pay if it means the Commanders will be at full strength when the games actually count. Still, from a purely developmental standpoint, it's hard to ignore the cost. Preseason matters more for some players than others. Veterans like Mariota and Brown can afford to sit. McLaurin and Cosmi are locked into their roles. But for Coleman, McGee, and Jean-Baptiste, every snap counts. These are the players who need to learn on the fly, build chemistry with teammates, and show that they can be relied upon when the bullets start flying. Missing joint practices against a team like the Patriots, which prides itself on discipline, speed, and execution, is particularly unfortunate. These sessions are often more valuable than the preseason game itself, providing high-level reps in a controlled but competitive environment. That kind of experience is irreplaceable, and you only get so many of these opportunities. Fortunately, the injuries don't appear to be long-term, and there's still time for these players to catch up. All in all, while the absences may be frustrating for fans eager to see their favorite players suit up, there's no cause for alarm just yet. Dan Quinn is playing the long game, and rightly so. He understands the importance of managing workloads, especially for young players transitioning into bigger roles. The Commanders still have plenty of camp left, and preseason is just getting started. There's a long road ahead before final rosters are set and the regular season begins. For now, it's about getting guys healthy, giving younger players a chance to step up, and continuing to install the culture Quinn is trying to build. These setbacks, while inconvenient, are part of the process. The good news is that none of the injuries appear to be major, and the coaching staff seems confident about getting everyone back soon. So stay patient, stay tuned, and get ready, because football season is only just beginning. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. Whispers are getting louder in the nation's capital, and they're starting to echo through the halls of every front office in the NFL. According to sources close to the situation, there's a growing buzz around a potential blockbuster move that could reshape the identity of the Washington Commanders' defense. Linebacker Devin Lloyd, formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars, is rumored to be en route to Washington in what insiders are calling a calculated and aggressive step toward defensive revitalization. While nothing has been confirmed officially by the franchise or Lloyd's camp, Multiple league insiders have noted that discussions between Lloyd's representatives and Washington's management have been described as intensifying over the past few days. What's really driving this story, however, isn't just the possibility of the move, it's the strategic vision behind it. The Commanders, who have struggled defensively in recent seasons, may be gearing up to build an entirely new identity around a young and explosive linebacker. Let's take a step back and really digest what this could mean. Devin Lloyd, the 2022 first-round pick out of Utah, was seen as a cornerstone for the Jaguars' defense just a couple of seasons ago. His mix of sideline-to-sideline speed, football IQ, and thumping physicality made him a standout in his rookie year. He racked up tackles, dropped into coverage, pressured quarterbacks. He did it all. So why would Jacksonville even consider letting him go? That's where this gets juicy. Rumblings suggest that the Jaguars are shifting philosophies under new defensive leadership, leaning more toward a hybrid scheme that may not fully utilize Lloyd's talents. If that's true, and if Lloyd has expressed frustration behind closed doors, then Washington might be seizing the perfect opportunity to swoop in. A young player with star potential, possibly available due to schematic misalignment. That's the kind of move that smart franchises make when trying to build something sustainable. And let's be real, the Commanders desperately need that kind of injection. Their defense, once feared and physically dominant, has been a shell of its former self. The departure of top names like Chase Young and Montez Sweat, followed by inconsistent linebacker play and a secondary that's been torched more times than fans care to count, left a void that's yet to be filled. Head coach Dan Quinn, known for engineering aggressive and opportunistic defenses, has made it clear in previous interviews that his unit needs a new general on the field. Could Devin Lloyd be that guy? If the rumors are true, Washington might see in Lloyd the perfect mix of youth, leadership, and versatility. Not just a plug-and-play guy, but a player who could galvanize the entire unit. Someone who doesn't just play linebacker, but commands the huddle, diagnoses offenses like a coach, and sets the tone from the first snap. And what's interesting, here is how this aligns with the Commanders' broader roster philosophy under new ownership. Since Josh Harris and his group took control of the team, there's been a noticeable shift, not just in how the team spends, but in why they spend. Strategic investments in young, ascending talent rather than overpriced veterans. And Devin Lloyd fits that mold to perfection. He's still on a rookie deal, which makes him cap-friendly, he's got years ahead of him, and most importantly, he plays with a chip on his shoulder. If you've ever watched Lloyd mic'd up, you know he brings a relentless motor and infectious energy. That's the kind of presence a team in transition needs. A locker room leader who's hungry, humble, and still has everything to prove. So if Washington is serious about flipping the script on the defensive side of the ball, Lloyd could very well be the centerpiece. Of course there are questions. What would Washington have to give up to get him? Rumors suggest a package involving a mid-round pick and a rotational defensive back. Possibly someone like Danny Johnson or a depth piece from the safety group. Jacksonville, in turn, might be looking to bolster their secondary or add flexibility in future drafts. But the question remains, does Lloyd want to come to Washington? Early signs point to yes. Insiders close to Lloyd's camp have hinted that he's intrigued by the idea of playing under Dan Quinn, especially in a system that would allow him to roam freely and make plays. He's also said to admire what the Commanders are building culturally. Young core, new energy, a clean slate. And for a player like Lloyd, who thrives when he feels like the underdog, it could be the perfect environment to take the next leap in his career. Still, we've seen this story before. Big name linked to a rebuilding franchise, rumors swirling, fans getting hyped, only for everything to fall apart at the last minute. But this one feels a little different. There's momentum, and not just from one side. Players within the Commanders' locker room have reportedly been buzzing about Lloyd during training camp. According to one unnamed defensive coach, he's the kind of guy who changes the temperature of the room. You feel him. And that might be exactly what Washington needs. Not just another solid player, but a tone setter. A guy who can change the trajectory of a drive, a game, or a season. In a league where margins are razor thin, one impact player can make all the difference. Especially on defense, where identity is everything. And for Washington, the identity right now is rebuilding. Lloyd might help change that to resurging. Fans naturally are split. Some are already imagining Lloyd in the burgundy and gold, anchoring the middle of the field, barking out assignments and blowing up screens. Others are more cautious, remembering past trades that didn't pan out. The trauma of big expectations, followed by bitter disappointment, runs deep in this fan base. But even the skeptics admit this is the kind of move that could work. Lloyd isn't a reclamation project or an aging veteran clinging to relevance. He's young, proven, and arguably still scratching the surface of his potential. Paired with the right defensive line, given freedom in Quinn's aggressive scheme, he could blossom into one of the league's top off-ball linebackers. The kind of player who makes Pro Bowls and headlines. The kind of player you build around. And if Washington can land him without gutting their future, the upside might outweigh the risk tenfold. There's also the locker room angle. With so much turnover on the Commanders roster in the past 2 years, finding leaders has been a challenge. Veterans are few. Continuity is scarce. And yet culture is everything in football. It's the invisible force that separates the good teams from the great ones. Sources say Lloyd is a student of the game, obsessed with film, always the last to leave the weight room. That's the kind of guy who sets a tone without saying a word. Add him to a group of young, hungry defenders like Jamin Davis, Emmanuel, Forbes, and Derek Forrest, and you start to see the foundation of something real. Not hype, not headlines, but a true defensive nucleus with staying power. And in a division stacked with offensive firepower, from Dallas to Philly, you need more than scheme to survive. You need heart, grit, identity. Lloyd might just bring all three. From a media perspective, this is the kind of rumor that sends shockwaves. Analysts are already breaking down what Lloyd would look like in the Commanders' scheme. Podcasts, radio shows, even former players are weighing in. One notable ex-linebacker went so far as to say, if Washington pulls this off, they'll be a top 10 defense within 2 years. Bold? Maybe. But it speaks to how highly Lloyd is regarded by those in the know. He's not just good. He's transformative. And if you pair that with Washington's potential top 5 draft pick next year and improving offensive weapons, suddenly, this franchise looks a lot less like a rebuild and a lot more like a rise in power. It's all speculation for now, sure. But where there's smoke, there's usually fire. And the smoke around Devin Lloyd to Washington is starting to billow like a pre-game fog machine before kickoff. So where do things go from here? Expect developments in the coming days, maybe even hours. The preseason is heating up. Teams are finalizing rosters. Trades are being whispered in corridors, discussed in meeting rooms, and floated to agents under the radar. Don't be surprised. If this one moves fast, Devin Lloyd may already have one foot in the door. Washington's front office knows what's at stake. Another year of mediocrity won't cut it. Fans are demanding change, and ownership wants a splash. Lloyd could be that splash. Not just a move for today, but a message for tomorrow. That the Commanders are done being the punchline and ready to punch back. No more soft zones and missed tackles. No more late game collapses. With Devin Lloyd roaming the middle, maybe, just maybe, the era of bend and break defense in Washington is coming to an end. And a new wall, the Lloyd wall, is ready to rise. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.